Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, today we're going to be reviewing 1,000 Perfect Lies by Monica Murphy. This is an arc sent to me by the publisher Mayhem Books, also known as Entangled Teen, also known as an imprint, the young adult imprint of Red Tower Books, right? I tend to love Entangled Teen books more than I love adult Red Tower books. But even with this one, I was a little hesitant. I didn't know if I was going to love it as much as I honestly ended up loving it. When it comes to contemporary mysteries for young adults, I do like mystery thrillers, but I tend to be really, really picky about them because sometimes I'm just utterly disappointed. And God, there was a book I read and it was such an utter disappointment. I can't remember. It wasn't published by, I think it was by Source Books Fire, which is shocking to me because I also tend to love Source Books Fire, you know. But I digress. I really, really enjoyed this book more than I thought it was. More than I thought I was. Words. I will say it did have a bit of a slow start for me. Again, I was really hesitant. Was I really going to enjoy this book? You have Belinda, also known as Billy Vale. She has taken on the pseudonym of Belinda Winters, a socialite from Manhattan, and her estranged father has pretty much hired her. You know, she hasn't really spoken to her father or had a relationship with him since she was 6. And her sister, who was at this private school, is, one, being accused of murdering her best friend and pushing her off a cliff. And it's some sort of twisted murder-suicide because she is now in a coma because she is also at the bottom of the cliff with her. So her estranged father hires her to go investigate. He's like, no, she wouldn't do that. I need you to break into this school, basically, and find out who did do it. And, you know, she's like, okay, fine, but you're going to have to pay for mom's rehab because her mother is haunted by a lot of ghosts, which do tie into this novel, you know, but that's like a later reveal. So it's connected. Her mother has a lot of alcohol, you know, she abuses alcohol. So her father gladly pays in advance for her mother's rehab. Gets a makeover from her stepmom, who you think is going to be kind of like a nasty bitch, but she's actually a sweetheart. And I think that that's what I like about this novel. It's very subversive. You know, you think one thing, you know, you think her stepmom's going to be like this nasty person. She's actually a sweetheart who genuinely cares about her sister, you know, her biological, sister, right? They're called, I guess Irish twins is what they're called because they were born like 15 months apart. So it's really interesting to see like that family dynamic kind of change a little bit because she cares. So she does, you know, grow a relationship with her. And a lot of the other character dynamics, some of them, I mean, rich, prestigious kids at a boarding school, some of them are those stereotypical, like, oh yeah, money buys me everything. But then you have the ones who have to work hard for it and are just like mean girls because they have to work for it, but they're still in that social circle, right? It's a lot of interesting little nuances with the characterization that really made me enjoy the novel, especially the romance that develops between her and, wow, why didn't I write his name? Oh, Connor. I did. I did write his name. With her and Connor and her and Sophia. Sophia is the kind of like the outcast because she's the headmaster's daughter. I love their whole friendship development. And then her relationship with Connor, who is the brother of Emily, the girl who was dead, right? The character dynamics are really, really well done. And I think that's the strength of the novel. Not to say that there's any like weak points outside that opening part being a little slow and a little hard to get into. Like, I did struggle initially to connect to Billy because I'm like, I don't really like the tone, the attitude with her. Like, I understood it, but I just couldn't like connect to her. However, she shows a lot of good character growth and a lot of good character development that do make me root for her, especially as she forms those relationships, you know, one with her stepmom and one with Connor and one with Sophia. I think her relationship with Sophia is probably my favorite because they become such good best friends. And even when Sophia discovers the truth, she doesn't have a betrayal. She's like, what do you need? I will help you. She is a golden best friend. Like, she's a golden retriever. Do not lose her. And that's how Billy feels. Like, they're like pinky promise friends for the rest of their lives, you know? But that's really the strength of the novel, the characterization and those character dynamics. The characters grow, you know? Billy grows, she develops, and so I was on her side. Halfway through the novel, I didn't want to put it down. You know, it took me a little bit to get into it, but once I was in it, I was hooked. And then as the mystery, you know, she's trying to solve who pushed her sister off this cliff, and her sister's friend, Connor's sister. Like, who did that? Once all of that starts to develop and connects to her mother's past and her father's past and something else that happened on the campus, I will say it's a little bit of a stretch how Billy stumbles onto that kind of trajectory. It's more of like her curiosity is getting like the better of her, but in a good way, because it did connect to her sister's attempted murder, right? There is a connection, but the way that connection is developed, it's more of just like her curiosity. It's like, you're supposed to be investigating this. Why are you investigating this? Like, what drew you to this? You know, I had a hard time believing that her attention was just about to like pivot to this. But it does make a little bit of sense because it is connected to her mother. So she is also trying to understand her mother and her father and their relationship, and why is her mother an alcoholic now, you know? So it's still a little bit of a stretch how she got onto that path, but I do think, you know, her sister's notes and her sister's own investigation into that past paves the way for it, you know? It does pave the way for it a little bit, so it does end up making sense for the overall plot. I just think it could have been written in a smoother way, just slightly smoother, like a little bit more nuances, a little bit more on her sister's investigation, you know, a little bit more on her relationship with her sister and their text messages. Something that would have really given her the key to be like, why are these notes in my sister's yearbook so important? How are they connected? You know? So I think the overall plot, I think it was well done. I do think it was, for the most part. I'm really just nitpicking, to be perfectly honest with you, because it really was a good book. And I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. Because books like this, they always tend to, like, they're hit or miss for me. And this one was definitely a hit. So I'm really just nitpicking at this point. You know, slow start, that segue onto this kind of story investigation, you know, investigating this part versus this part. They do tie together, but they're very loosely tied together initially in the investigation. As the investigation continues, then everything does tie together quite neatly, leading to the ending and leading to the ultimate reveal, which didn't see coming, to be perfectly honest with you, but it made sense, and I like that. I liked that the story, in the end, made sense, had flow, had good characterization, really good dynamics. It made sense, and it really was a win for me. You know, solid 4.5 stars. Really, I'm honestly just nitpicking, but solid 4.5 stars for me. So, if you like mystery thrillers, you know, not haunted, but, you know, like deep set into like a past mistake, definitely go ahead and check out this book. It really was tension driven, good characterization, good character growth, dynamics. I love the side characters and the way that the relationships develop, and I really do applaud the overall plot because it kept me on my toes and I didn't see it coming. The ultimate reveal, had no idea it was that person. Not at all. Just didn't know it was going to be that person. Were they on my list of suspects? For sure. But to be fair, all of those rich kids were until until Billy said, nope, couldn't be this person. So, to be fair, they were all on my list of suspects, just like they were on her list of suspects until she cleared them. So, it really was a really good book. So, thank you once again, Mayhem Books and Tangle Teen, for sending me a copy of this arc. Highly do recommend it. On that note, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, happy reading.